The casino floor smelled like expensive cigars and desperation, a combination I'd grown numb to after 6 months of serving champagne to people who wouldn't notice if I disappeared. The crystal glasses clinked on my tray as I weaved through the crowd, my cheap heels pinching with every step. Around me, slot machines chimed their false promises, while men in suits that cost more than my yearly rent laughed too loud, drank too much, and never once looked at my face. I was a ghost here. Invisible. Exactly what I needed to be. The Venetian's high roller section glittered like a different world, all black marble and gold accents, where the real money changed hands behind velvet ropes. I wasn't supposed to enter that section. But Marcus, the floor manager, had called in sick, and someone needed to deliver the Dom Perignon to table 7. My hands trembled slightly as I balanced the tray. Not from the weight, from the constant awareness that burned at the back of my neck, the feeling I'd carried for 3 months now, the sensation of being hunted. I pushed through the heavy curtain separating the sections, and the atmosphere changed immediately. Quieter, more dangerous. The carpet here was so thick it swallowed sound. Only 4 tables occupied this space, each surrounded by men who looked like they ate danger for breakfast. Table 7 sat in the corner, shadowed and separate from the rest. I didn't look at the occupants as I approached. Had learned long ago that eye contact invited attention I couldn't afford. But I felt their presence like a physical weight. 3 men, maybe 4. The kind of stillness that preceded violence. "Your champagne, gentlemen," I murmured, setting the bottle down with practiced efficiency. My voice came out steadier than I felt. That's when I smelled it. Sandalwood and something darker, like smoke and forbidden promises. Different from the cloying cologne that saturated the rest of the casino. This was subtle, expensive, controlled. Leave it. The voice rolled over me like thunder before a storm, deep, accented with something European I couldn't place. Not a request. A command that expected obedience. I nodded, keeping my eyes down, and turned to leave. Wait. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet had grown roots in that plush carpet. Look at me. Slowly, against every survival instinct I possessed, I raised my eyes. The man at the head of the table wasn't what I expected. Younger than his voice suggested, maybe late 30s, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. He wore a 3-piece suit that probably cost more than my car, back when I'd had a car, tailored so perfectly it looked like a second skin. But it wasn't his appearance that stole my breath. It was the way everyone else at the table had gone absolutely still, like prey animals sensing a predator's interest had shifted. He studied me with the intensity of someone cataloging every detail. My faded uniform, my scuffed shoes, the slight bruise on my wrist I'd tried to cover with makeup. Those black eyes missed nothing. "What's your name?" he asked, his accent curling around the words like smoke. "Emma," I whispered, then immediately cursed myself. Never give your real name. That had been rule number 1. One corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but close. "Emma." He tasted my name like expensive wine. "You're new." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. 6 months. "Interesting." He leaned back in his chair, and I noticed for the first time the man standing behind him, massive, built like a brick wall, with a bulge under his jacket that could only be a weapon. "You may go, Emma." I didn't need to be told twice. I turned and walked, not ran, though everything in me wanted to, back through the curtain, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I kept my head down, delivered drinks, collected empty glasses, and tried to forget those dark eyes that had seen too much. But every time I entered the main floor, I felt that gaze tracking me, even though I never looked back toward table 7. At 2 a.m., I clocked out and changed in the employee locker room, pulling on my jeans and the oversized hoodie that hid my frame. The parking garage was 3 levels down, poorly lit and echoing with every footstep. I clutched my keys between my fingers, the only weapon I had. My studio apartment was 40 minutes away by bus, 40 minutes of looking over my shoulder, of jumping at shadows, of praying that tonight wasn't the night he found me. I pushed through the casino's employee exit into the parking garage's stale air and stopped dead. A man leaned against the concrete pillar directly in my path, tall, lean, with sandy hair and a smile that had once made me feel safe. Now it just made me sick. "Hello, baby," Derek said, pushing off the pillar. "Miss me?" My blood turned to ice. 3 months. 3 months since I'd run, since I'd changed my name, my hair, everything. 3 months of looking over my shoulder. And he'd found me. "Derek?" My voice came out steady, which surprised me. "You need to leave." He laughed, that familiar sound that used to make me laugh too, before I'd learned what his hands could do. "That's not very friendly, Emma. Or should I call you Sarah? Or was it Jessica last month?" He took a step closer. "You've been hard to track down. Cost me a lot of money, actually." I backed up, but my shoulders hit the door I'd just exited. "I don't have your money. I never did." "Oh, I know exactly where my money is." Another step. Close enough now that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "But that's not why I'm here, see? You embarrassed me, baby. Made me look stupid in front of people I owe. And now I need to bring you back to fix that." "I'm not going anywhere with you." His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. The same one he'd twisted last time, the bruise still fading. I gasped at the pressure, at the pain that brought back memories I'd tried to bury. "You don't get to decide. Is there a problem here?" The voice came from behind Derek, and he spun around, dropping my wrist. 3 men had emerged from the shadows near a black Mercedes SUV I hadn't noticed before. The one who'd spoken stood in the center. The massive man from Table 7, the one with the gun. But flanking him were 2 others equally imposing, all wearing dark suits and expressions that promised violence. And behind them, walking forward with the casual confidence of someone who owned everything he surveyed, was the man from Table 7. He'd removed his jacket, his white shirt practically glowing in the garage's dim light. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle, and I noticed with a strange detachment what looked like the edge of a tattoo. "The lady appears uncomfortable," he said, those black eyes fixed on Derek with the intensity of a predator selecting its prey. Derek straightened, trying to match that confidence and failing spectacularly. "This is a private conversation, friend. Between me and my girlfriend." "I'm not—" I started, but the man from Table 7 raised one hand slightly, silencing me without even looking my way. "I don't think I asked you a question," he said to Derek, his voice soft. Dangerously soft. "I made an observation. The lady appears uncomfortable." He took 1 step forward, just one. But Derek stumbled back like he'd been shoved. "So, let me ask you now. Is there a problem here?" Derek's bravado crumbled. I saw it happen in real time, the way he recognized something in this man that I'd only sensed. Real danger. Not the cowardly violence of hitting someone weaker, but the controlled lethality of someone who'd done worse and would do it again without losing sleep. "No problem," Derek muttered, "just leaving." "Smart man." The words dripped with contempt. Derek fled. Actually ran across the parking garage like the devil himself was chasing him, and maybe he was. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights and my ragged breathing. The man from Table 7 finally looked at me, and I saw something flicker in those dark eyes. Calculation, interest, something else I couldn't name. "Are you hurt?" he asked. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded to one of his men, who immediately produced a business card from thin air. "My name is Dominic Salvatore," he said, closing the distance between us with 2 measured steps, close enough that I could smell that sandalwood again, could see the flecks of gold in his otherwise black eyes. "If that man bothers you again, you call this number. Understood?" I took the card with trembling fingers, heavy stock, embossed lettering. Just a name and a phone number, no title, no business listed. "Thank you," I whispered. Something dangerous flashed across his face. Satisfaction. Possession. I couldn't tell. "Go home, Emma. My driver will follow to make sure you arrive safely." "That's not—" It wasn't a suggestion. And just like that, he turned and walked back to the Mercedes, his men falling into formation around him like a well-oiled machine. The SUV's engine purred to life, and I realized there was a second vehicle behind it, a sleek black sedan that hadn't been there before. Or had it? Had I been so focused on Derek that I'd missed an entire car? The sedan's back door opened, and a driver stepped out, another large man in a dark suit, gesturing toward the open door. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from an unknown number. "Get in the car, Emma. I won't ask twice." I looked up at the Mercedes, its tinted windows revealing nothing. Against every instinct of self-preservation I'd honed over 3 months of running, I walked to the sedan and climbed inside. The door closed behind me with the solid thunk of expensive engineering, and the car began to move, the Mercedes following behind like a dark shadow. I had escaped one danger tonight. But looking at that business card in my hand, at the name embossed in black ink, I had the sinking feeling I'd just walked straight into another. The sedan's leather seats smelled new, expensive, nothing like the cracked vinyl of the buses I'd grown accustomed to. I sat rigid against the door, watching the city lights blur past tinted windows so dark I wondered if anyone could see in. Or out. The driver hadn't spoken a single word. He navigated the streets with practiced efficiency, his eyes occasionally flicking to the rearview mirror where I caught glimpses of the Mercedes following at a precise distance. Always there. Always watching. My studio apartment building looked even more pathetic than usual when we pulled up. A converted warehouse in a neighborhood where sirens were the soundtrack, and broken glass glittered on sidewalks like deadly diamonds. I'd paid 3 months in advance with cash, no questions asked, because places like this didn't ask questions. The driver got out, opened my door before I could reach for the handle. Up close, I could see the earpiece curled against his skull, the way his jacket hung slightly heavy on one side. Armed. Of course he was armed. "Thank you," I murmured, stepping onto the curb. He nodded once, waited until I'd entered the building's security door, which had stopped locking properly 2 weeks ago, then returned to the sedan. Both vehicles idled at the curb as I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, my footsteps echoing in the stairwell that reeked of stale cigarettes and defeat. Only when I'd locked my apartment door, all 3 locks, plus the chain, did I hear the engines pull away. I leaned against the door, my heart still racing, and looked down at the business card clutched in my sweaty palm. Dominic Salvatore. The name meant nothing to me, but the weight of it felt significant. Like a stone dropped into still water, ripples spreading outward into consequences I couldn't yet see. I should throw it away, should forget this entire night happened. Instead, I tucked it into my wallet, behind my fake ID and the emergency credit card I'd sworn never to use. Sleep didn't come easy. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. Footsteps, doors slamming, the couple next door screaming at each other in Spanish. But worse than the noise was the silence between, filled with memories of Derek's hand on my wrist, his voice saying he'd found me, that I couldn't hide, and darker still, the memory of Dominic Salvatore's eyes when he'd looked at me, not the way men usually looked at women, with lust or dismissal or both. This had been different, calculating, like I was a puzzle he intended to solve, whether I wanted to be solved or not. When my alarm shrieked at noon, I worked nights, slept days. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My reflection in the bathroom mirror confirmed it. Purple shadows under bloodshot eyes, my blonde hair, dyed from its natural brown 3 months ago, sticking up in matted chunks. I just stepped out of the shower when my phone rang. Unknown number. My hand hovered over the decline button. Nothing good came from unknown numbers, but something made me answer. "Hello?" "Ms. Emma." Not a question. That accented voice from last night, smooth as aged whiskey, and twice as dangerous. "I trust you arrived home safely." My heart kicked against my ribs. "Mr. Salvatore, yes, thank you for that, and for last night." "Dominic," he corrected. Mr. Salvatore was my father. A pause, weighted with meaning I didn't understand. "I'm calling to inform you that your ex-boyfriend will not be a problem anymore." The way he said it made my blood run cold. "What did you do?" "Nothing permanent." I could hear the smile in his voice. "I simply had a conversation with him about the inadvisability of bothering you further. He was very receptive to my suggestions." I sat down hard on my bed, the towel clutched around me. "You didn't have to do that." No, he agreed. I didn't. Are you working tonight? The subject changed through me. Yes, same shift. Good, I'll see you there. Wait, I don't... The line went dead. I stared at my phone, a dozen emotions warring in my chest. Relief that Derek might actually leave me alone, fear of what Dominic had done to ensure it. And underneath both, a flutter of something that felt dangerously like anticipation. The casino felt different that night. Or maybe I felt different. I couldn't stop my eyes from drifting toward the high roller section. Couldn't stop wondering if he was there, watching. Earth to Emma. Marcus snapped his fingers in front of my face. He'd recovered from his mysterious illness, looking smug and well-rested. Table 12 needs a refill. You planning to stand there all night? I grabbed the champagne bottle, forcing myself to focus. This job was all I had. I couldn't afford to lose it because some dangerous man had decided I was interesting. But at 11 p.m., when I pushed through the velvet curtain with a tray of drinks for table 7, my breath caught. Dominic sat in the same chair as last night. But tonight he was alone, no bodyguards visible, though I knew they had to be close. He wasn't playing cards, wasn't doing anything except sitting there, one hand wrapped around a glass of amber liquid, his dark eyes locked on the entrance. Locked on me. Your champagne, sir, I managed, setting the bucket down with hands that only shook slightly. I didn't order champagne, Emma. He said my name like a caress. I ordered you. My head snapped up. Excuse me? Sit. He gestured to the empty chair across from him. I'm working. Not anymore. I've purchased your time for the evening. He must have seen the panic on my face because he added, to talk. Nothing more. Unless you want more. The last 3 words hung in the air between us. Electric and dangerous. I could lose my job, I whispered. I own 40% of this casino. You won't lose your job. He leaned forward, and I caught that sandalwood scent again. Sit down, Emma, please. The please surprised me. Men like him, men with power rolling off them like heat, didn't say please. I sat, perching on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt. Up close, I could see details I'd missed last night. The thin scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The way his jaw tensed and released, like he was grinding his teeth. The tattoo that crept up from his collar. Something dark and intricate that disappeared beneath his shirt. Why? I asked. Why what? Why help me last night? Why this? I gestured between us. You don't know me. His smile was slow, predatory. I know more than you think. Emma Clark, formerly Sarah Mitchell, formerly Jessica Reeves. 26 years old, no family. Dropped out of college 3 years ago. Been running for 3 months from Derek Patterson. Small-time criminal with debts to people who don't forgive debts. Horror washed over me in a cold wave. How do you... I make it my business to know things, especially about people who interest me. He took a sip of his drink, never breaking eye contact. And you, Emma, interest me very much. I should have been terrified. Should have run. But underneath the fear was a strange, sick thrill. Someone saw me. Really saw me. Not the ghost serving drinks, not the punching bag Derek had made me. But me. What do you want? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Honestly? He set down his glass, leaned back in his chair with the confidence of a king on a throne. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I know that watching some piece of trash put his hands on you made me want to do things that would have required my lawyers to work overtime. His eyes darkened. I don't like that feeling. I prefer control. And you think I'm what? A distraction? Perhaps. He tilted his head, studying me like I was a painting in a museum. Or perhaps you're something more interesting. Tell me, Emma, what were you running from? Really running from? The question hit too close to truths I'd buried. Derek. I told you. Derek Patterson is a coward who hits women and owes money to the Volkov organization. You could have handled him with a restraining order and a decent lawyer. He leaned forward again, and I fought the urge to lean back. But you didn't. You ran, changed your name, your hair, your entire life. That suggests you're running from something much bigger than an abusive boyfriend. My throat tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. His voice dropped lower, intimate and inescapable, and eventually, you'll tell me. But not tonight. He stood in one fluid motion, buttoning his jacket. Tonight I'm going to have my driver take you home again. And tomorrow you're going to quit this job. What? No, you need safety, security, things I can provide. He pulled out his wallet, extracted a black credit card and set it on the table between us. There's no limit. Buy yourself a new apartment in a better neighborhood. New clothes, whatever you need. I stared at the card like it was a snake. I'm not a prostitute. His laugh was genuine, surprised. No, you're not. You're something much rarer, someone who's honest in a city built on lies. He pushed the card toward me. This isn't payment for services, Emma. This is an investment. In what? In keeping you close. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I don't know why yet, but I need you where I can see you, where I can protect you. I don't need protection. Derek would disagree. So would the 3 Volkov enforcers who were asking about you at the Blue Diamond Club last week. My blood froze. The Volkovs. Derek owed the Volkovs, Russian mob, the kind of people who didn't just hurt you. They erased you. Dominic watched my face, saw the fear, and nodded with grim satisfaction. Exactly. So you have 2 choices, Emma. You can keep running, keep hiding, and hope they don't find you before your luck runs out. He picked up the credit card, held it out to me. Or you can accept my protection. Let me handle the Volkovs, Derek, and anyone else who thinks they can touch what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The certainty in those 2 words made my stomach flip. But you will be. I should have thrown the card in his face. Should have told him to go to hell. Instead, I took it. His smile was triumph and possession wrapped in satisfaction. Good girl. My driver is waiting downstairs. Go home, Emma. Pack your things. Tomorrow, someone will come to help you find a new place. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Emma, don't run. I'm much better at hunting than Derek ever was. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. I sat alone at table 7 for a long moment, the credit card heavy in my hand, my heart hammering a rhythm that felt dangerously like surrender. When I finally stood and walked through the casino, I felt his eyes on me the entire way, invisible but omnipresent. I'd escaped Derek's cage only to walk willingly into another one. But this cage, I realized as the driver opened the sedan door, came with protection I desperately needed. The question was, what would Dominic Salvatore expect in return? The penthouse apartment overlooked the city like a throne overlooking a kingdom. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a glittering sprawl of lights that had once seemed magical, before I'd learned what darkness they could hide. This one has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, full security system with panic buttons in every room. The real estate agent, Sophia, mid-40s, designer suit, cold efficiency, gestured around the space like she was presenting a prize. Mr. Salvatore specifically requested top-floor units with controlled access. I walked to the window, my reflection ghostly against the nighttime cityscape. 4 days had passed since Dominic had given me that credit card. 4 days of whiplash-inducing changes that left me dizzy and disoriented. The morning after our conversation, a woman named Marie had arrived at my studio apartment. Elegant, French, with eyes that assessed and cataloged everything. She'd taken one look at my meager possessions and declared we were starting from scratch. The shopping trip that followed had been surreal. Boutiques where assistants appeared with champagne and deference, where price tags didn't exist and everything I hesitated over, Marie simply purchased. "You must look the part," she'd said in her lilting accent. "If you are to be under Mr. Salvatore's protection, you represent him. Appearance matters." I hadn't asked what part I was supposed to be playing. Now, standing in an apartment that cost more per month than I'd made in a year at the casino, I felt like an actress who'd wandered onto the wrong set. "I'll take it," I heard myself say. Sophia's smile was professional, but knowing. She'd seen this before, young women being installed in expensive apartments by powerful men. The nature of the arrangement didn't concern her. Only the commission did. The paperwork took an hour. Dominic's name appeared nowhere on the lease. It was all handled through a property management company that apparently owned half the luxury buildings in the city. But when Sophia handed me the keys, she said, "Mr. Salvatore has requested that you call him once you're settled." Of course he had. I moved in that afternoon, which took all of 15 minutes since I owned almost nothing. The furniture had been pre-selected. Modern, expensive, impersonal. Like a hotel room designed by someone with unlimited budget and no soul. By sunset, I was standing in my new kitchen, surrounded by marble countertops and appliances I didn't know how to use, feeling more lost than I had in the studio apartment with its broken heater and suspicious stains. My phone rang. Unknown number that I now recognized. "Hello, Dominic. You took the apartment." Satisfaction colored his voice. "Good. How do you feel?" "Like I'm living someone else's life." "You are." The old Emma would still be serving drinks and looking over her shoulder. "This Emma is safe." A pause. "Have you eaten?" No. My driver will pick you up in 30 minutes. We're having dinner." "That's not 30 minutes, Emma. Wear the black dress Marie purchased, the one with the high neck." He hung up before I could argue. I stood there. Anger and something else. Anticipation, fear, I couldn't distinguish anymore, warring in my chest. He was so certain I'd obey, so confident in his control over me. The infuriating part was that he was right. 29 minutes later, I stepped out of my building in the black dress that fit like it had been made for me. Probably because it had been. The sedan idled at the curb, the same driver as always. I'd learned his name was Anton, though he still never spoke. The restaurant was the kind of place I'd only seen in movies. Intimate, exclusive, where a hostess greeted Anton by name and led me through a dining room of quiet wealth to a private room in the back. Dominic stood when I entered, and I hated that my breath caught. He wore all black tonight. Shirt, slacks, even his tie was black silk that caught the candlelight. It should have made him look like he was attending a funeral. Instead, it made him look like sin personified. Emma. He moved around the table, took my hand, and pressed his lips to my knuckles in a gesture that felt European and old-fashioned, and made my skin burn. "You look exquisite. You're very controlling," I said, pulling my hand back. His smile was unapologetic. "Yes, sit." The table was set for two, crystal glasses already filled with wine so dark it looked like blood. The walls were soundproofed. I could tell by the quality of silence, the way noise from the main dining room disappeared completely when the door closed. We were utterly alone. "You're probably wondering why I invited you to dinner," Dominic said, settling into his chair with leonine grace. "You mean ordered me to dinner? Semantics." He lifted his wineglass in a mock toast. "I wanted to discuss your future." "My future is my own. Is it?" He took a sip, watching me over the rim. 3 days ago, the Volkov organization sent 2 men to your old apartment building. They asked about a blonde woman, showed your picture. Well, the picture from when you were Sarah Mitchell. Brown hair, different style, but recognizably you. Ice flooded my veins. "How do you—" "Because I had men watching the building. They intercepted the Volkovs, had a conversation about territory and respect, and the matter was resolved." He set down his glass. "For now." "What does that mean?" "It means the Volkovs have agreed to stop looking for you as a personal favor to me. But favors have prices, Emma, and eventually, they'll want to know why you matter to me." I gripped the edge of the table. "I never asked for this." "No. You asked for help in a parking garage when your ex-boyfriend found you. I provided that help. Everything else is consequence." He leaned forward, and the candlelight cast shadows across his face that made him look dangerous and beautiful and utterly inhuman. "Tell me what Derek did to you. He hurt me. You saw the bruises. Before that, tell me why you really ran." The waiters arrived with the first course, giving me a temporary reprieve. But Dominic's eyes never left my face, patient and relentless as the tide. When we were alone again, I found myself talking. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was exhaustion from carrying secrets alone. Maybe it was the way he listened, like every word mattered, like I mattered. Derek worked for the Volkovs. Small jobs, nothing major. Deliveries, collections, things like that. I pushed food around my plate, not tasting it. 6 months ago, he came home with a bag. Told me not to touch it, that it was for a job. But he was high, sloppy. Left it open on the table. What was in it? Money. More than I'd ever seen. Hundreds of thousands, maybe more. I met Dominic's eyes. And a ledger. Names, numbers, what looked like routes and schedules. I didn't understand most of it, but I knew it was important. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between us. What did you do? Nothing at first, but Derek got worse. The drugs, the violence. One night he beat me so badly I ended up in the ER. My voice dropped. The doctor asked if I wanted to file a report. I said no. But when I got home, the apartment was torn apart. The bag was gone, and Derek was screaming that I'd stolen from him, that the Volkovs would kill us both. Had you? No, but he didn't believe me. Neither would they. I swallowed hard. So I ran. Changed my name, my appearance, everything. Hoped they'd forget about me. They didn't forget. Dominic's voice was soft, dangerous. The Volkovs don't forget $500,000 in cash and a ledger containing distribution routes for their entire East Coast operation. My stomach dropped. $500,000? At least. And Emma? He reached across the table, caught my hand before I could pull away. His grip was warm, firm, inescapable. Someone did steal it. The money and the ledger both vanished the night of your hospital visit. The Volkovs think it was you. Derek told them it was you, probably to save his own skin. But I didn't. I believe you. The certainty in his voice steadied something inside me, which means someone else took it. Someone who knew where Derek kept it, who had access to your apartment. Derek's cousin, I whispered, the pieces clicking together. Marcus. He had a key. He was always around. Marcus Patterson. Works at the Venetian Casino as floor manager. Dominic's smile was sharp as a blade. Interesting. My heart stopped. The casino where you've been working for 6 months. Yes. He released my hand, sat back. I wondered about that coincidence. Now I'm certain it wasn't one. The room spun. He knew I was there. He knew, and he, was watching me? More than watching. Waiting. Dominic signaled, and one of his men appeared from somewhere. Had he been there the whole time? And handed him a tablet. He turned it to face me. Security footage. The parking garage. The night Derek found me. Watch the timestamp. I did. Derek appeared at 10:47 p.m. But at 10:32, I watched Marcus walk through the garage, stop at Derek's car, and have a brief conversation through the window. He told Derek where to find you, I breathed. He's been telling the Volkovs where to find you too. For a price, I imagine. Dominic closed the tablet. He stole the money and the ledger, framed you, and has been selling information about your location to the very people hunting you. Quite the entrepreneur. Rage replaced fear, hot and cleansing. That bastard. He's been working with me, smiling at me while setting you up to take the fall for his crime. Dominic stood, moved around the table until he was beside me. The Volkovs would have killed you, Emma. Slowly, painfully. As an example. I looked up at him, this dangerous man who'd inserted himself into my life, and asked the question that had been burning in my mind for days. Why do you care? Why help me at all? He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear with surprising gentleness, because when I saw you in that casino, invisible to everyone else, I recognized something. A fighter buried under fear, strength wrapped in vulnerability. His thumb traced my jawline, and because when that piece of trash put his hands on you, I wanted to kill him. That feeling, that possessive rage, I haven't felt anything like it in years. That's not a reason. That's obsession. Yes. He didn't deny it. But I'm a man who's built an empire on obsession. When I want something, I take it. When I want to protect something, nothing stops me. His hand cupped my face. I want to protect you, Emma. I want to destroy everyone who's hurt you. And I want you to stop running and start fighting back. How? His smile was predatory. By letting me teach you. By trusting me to handle Marcus, the Volkovs, and anyone else stupid enough to threaten what's mine. I'm not. You are. He said it with such conviction that arguing felt pointless. You became mine the moment I decided you were. The only question is whether you'll accept it. I should have been terrified, should have recognized the red flags, the possessiveness, the control. But I'd spent 3 months running, 3 months being hunted, and I was so tired of being afraid. What happens to Marcus? I asked. Dominic's smile widened. What do you want to happen to him? The question hung in the air, weighted with implications I understood perfectly. He was offering me revenge, justice, violence. I want him to confess. I want the Volkovs to know the truth. Done. He pulled out his phone, sent a text. My men will pick him up tonight. By morning, he'll have told the Volkovs everything. The stolen money, the ledger, all of it. And then? Then the Volkovs will handle him in their own way, which will not be pleasant. He pocketed his phone. But you'll be cleared. Free. Free. The word tasted like possibility and danger all at once. There's a price, I said, for all of this. Your protection, the apartment, clearing my name. What do you want from me? Dominic pulled me to my feet, his hands on my waist, his body close enough that I could feel his heat. I want you to stop hiding, stop running. I want you in my world, by my side, where I can see you. As what? Your mistress? As mine. He cut me off. However that evolves. I don't have all the answers, Emma. I just know that letting you walk away isn't an option I'm willing to consider. His honesty was more terrifying than any lie. This wasn't seduction or manipulation. It was truth, raw and unvarnished. And if I say no, you won't. His confidence should have been arrogant. Instead, it felt like certainty born from seeing something I couldn't, because you're as curious about this as I am. About us. About what happens when someone finally fights for you instead of against you. He was right. God help me, he was right. I looked up into those dark eyes and made a choice that felt like jumping off a cliff. Okay? One word. One surrender. His kiss was nothing like I'd imagined. Not brutal or demanding, but slow, thorough, claiming. His hands slid into my hair, angling my head as he tasted me with the same focused intensity he brought to everything else. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Mine, he whispered against my lips, and I didn't argue. The next 3 weeks blurred together like a dream I couldn't quite wake from, or didn't want to. Marcus disappeared the night of our dinner. The official story was that he'd fled town after being caught skimming from the casino. The unofficial story, whispered in the break rooms and back rooms where real information flowed, was that the Volkovs had him, that they'd made him confess to everything, before making him disappear in a way that ensured he'd never be found. I should have felt guilty, should have lost sleep over the role I'd played in his fate. I didn't. The ledger and money mysteriously reappeared in a Volkov warehouse, delivered with an anonymous note detailing Marcus's theft and deception. Within 48 hours, the hunt for me ended. The price on my head evaporated like morning fog. I was free, except I wasn't. Not really. Dominic had been right about one thing. I'd stopped running. But I'd traded one form of captivity for another, gilded though it was. He called every morning at 8, sometimes to ask what I'd eaten for breakfast, sometimes just to hear my voice. His driver picked me up 3 evenings a week for dinners at exclusive restaurants where we were always seated in private rooms, always surrounded by the invisible presence of his security. I learned things about him in fragments, pieces of a puzzle he revealed slowly. He'd been born in Sicily, moved to the States at 15 after his father's murder, built his empire from nothing through a combination of legitimate businesses, real estate, nightclubs, construction, and ventures he never named, but that I understood lived in legal gray areas at best. "I'm not a good man, Emma," he'd said one night over wine so expensive it probably cost more than my old car. "I've done things that would horrify you. Hurt people who deserved it and some who probably didn't. But I have a code. Family is sacred. Loyalty is rewarded. Betrayal is punished. And which am I?" I'd asked. His smile had been slow, possessive. "Your family. Whether you've accepted it yet or not." The way he looked at me, like I was something precious and dangerous all at once, should have sent me running. Instead, it made me lean closer. I was falling for a man who probably had blood on his hands, who controlled me with the same casual confidence he controlled everything else in his world, who'd inserted himself into every corner of my life until I couldn't remember what freedom had felt like. And the terrifying part was that I didn't want to remember. The morning everything changed started ordinarily enough. I woke in my penthouse, our penthouse, though Dominic maintained his own residence, a brownstone in the historic district he'd never invited me to, and found a dress box on my doorstep. Inside was a gown that looked like liquid sapphire, with a note in Dominic's sharp handwriting. "Tonight, be ready at 7. My phone rang before I could process. "Did you get it?" His voice was warm, intimate, like he was lying beside me instead of wherever he actually was. "The dress?" "Yes, it's beautiful." "What's the occasion?" "A gala. Charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital. Very tedious, very necessary for maintaining appearances." A pause. "I want you there, with me, publicly." My heart stuttered. 3 weeks of private dinners, of existing in the shadows of his world. Now he wanted me in the light. "Dominic, people will talk. They'll assume." "Let them assume." Steel underlay the warmth. "I'm tired of hiding you, Emma. I want everyone to see you on my arm. I want them to know you're under my protection." "You mean you want to mark your territory?" "Yes." No apology. No shame. Is that a problem? It should have been. But the possessiveness that would have terrified me with Derek felt different with Dominic. He was possessive, yes. But he was also protective, attentive. He'd ended threats to my safety, given me security I'd never known, and asked for nothing except my presence. Well, almost nothing. We hadn't slept together, despite the heat that simmered between us. Despite kisses that left me breathless and wanting, Dominic had maintained an almost old-fashioned restraint. "I won't push you," he'd said after one particularly intense encounter that had left us both panting. "When you're ready, you'll tell me. Until then, I can wait." The control he exhibited over his desire should have been reassuring. Instead, it made me want him more. "No," I heard myself say. "It's not a problem. I'll be ready at 7. His satisfaction resonated through the phone. "Good. Marie will come at 4 to help you prepare." Of course she would. The gala was held at the Grandview Hotel's ballroom, all crystal chandeliers and marble columns, where people in designer gowns and tuxedos moved like schools of exotic fish. Old money rubbed shoulders with new money, while waiters circulated with champagne and canapes that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. I felt like an imposter in my sapphire gown, despite Marie's assurances that I looked perfect. Then Dominic arrived. He moved through the crowd like a shark through water. People parting instinctively, conversations pausing, eyes tracking his progress. His tuxedo was tailored to perfection, his hair swept back. And when his eyes found me across the room, everything else ceased to exist. "Bellissima," he murmured when he reached me, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips. "You outshine every woman here. You're biased." "I'm honest." He tucked my hand into the crook of his arm. "Come. There are people you should meet." The next hour was a masterclass in power dynamics. Dominic introduced me to mayor's aides, business moguls, society matrons who smiled with their mouths while their eyes calculated my worth. To each, he presented me the same way. "This is Emma. She's with me." Simple, direct. A statement that brooked no questions. I watched how people reacted. The immediate deference, the careful politeness, the way they treated me with respect that had nothing to do with who I was, and everything to do with whose arm I held. "They're afraid of you," I whispered during a lull. "Good." Dominic's hand settled at the small of my back, possessive and warm. Fear breeds respect. Respect ensures cooperation. That's a lonely way to live. His eyes found mine, something vulnerable flickering in their depths. It was. "Before you." Before I could respond, a woman's voice cut through the crowd like a blade. "Dominic, how unexpected to see you here." We turned. The woman approaching was stunning, tall, willowy, with raven hair, and features so perfect they looked sculpted. Her red gown clung to her curves like sin, and she moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. But it was the way Dominic's entire body tensed that made my stomach drop. "Isabella." His voice was ice. "I thought you were in Milan." "I was." Business brought me back. Her eyes slid to me, assessing and dismissing in one glance. Who's your little friend? The condescension in little made my jaw clench. Emma Clark, I said, before Dominic could answer. And you are? Her smile was serpentine. Isabella Russo, Dominic's fiancée. The world tilted. Ex-fiancée, Dominic corrected, his voice dangerously soft. We haven't been engaged for 2 years, Isabella. Don't embarrass yourself. Details. She waved a manicured hand. Our families have been allied for generations, darling. A temporary separation doesn't change that. Her eyes returned to me, sharpening. Though I see you've been amusing yourself with... what exactly? A cocktail waitress? How charmingly democratic of you. Heat flooded my face. She'd done her research. Of course she had. Dominic's hand tightened on my waist. Watch your tone, Isabella. Emma is under my protection. Disrespecting her disrespects me. Your protection? Isabella laughed, the sound brittle. Is that what you're calling it? How long before she joins the parade of others who've warmed your bed and then been discarded? That's enough. Dominic's voice could have cut glass. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted, and from the satisfaction in Isabella's eyes, she knew it. Excuse me, I murmured, pulling away from Dominic's grip. I need some air. Emma. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I moved through the crowd blindly, pushing through French doors onto a terrace that overlooked the city. The cool night air hit my overheated skin like a slap. How many others? Isabella's words echoed. How long before she's discarded? I'd been so focused on running from my past that I hadn't stopped to question Dominic's, hadn't asked about the parade of women who must have existed before me. Men who looked like him, who wielded power like him, didn't stay alone. She's lying. I jumped. Dominic had followed me out, silent as a shadow. Is she? I turned to face him. Have there been others? Yes. He didn't lie. I appreciated that, even as it hurt. I'm 38 years old, Emma. Of course there have been others, but none of them were you. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. He moved closer, and I held my ground. Isabella and I were engaged 3 years ago. An arrangement between families meant to strengthen alliances. I broke it off because I couldn't stomach the idea of marrying someone I didn't love, who didn't love me. She's been bitter about it ever since. And the others? The parade she mentioned. His jaw tightened. Brief, meaningless, transactions disguised as relationships. He reached for me, and this time I didn't pull away. You're not a transaction, Emma. You're not a distraction or an amusement. You're... What? I challenged. What am I to you, Dominic? Really? Because 3 weeks ago, I was nobody. A cocktail waitress running from her past. Now I'm in a penthouse, wearing designer gowns, being paraded in front of high society like someone who belongs here, he interrupted. Like someone who belongs with me. Why? The question burst out. Why me? You could have anyone. Women like Isabella, who understand your world, who come from your world. Why choose a broken cocktail waitress you met by chance? It wasn't chance. His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. I saw you 3 months before that night in the parking garage. You were serving drinks in the main casino and someone spilled champagne on you. The customer was drunk, aggressive, but you handled it with grace. Smiled even though I could see it was killing you inside. And I thought, there's someone who's been beaten down but refuses to stay down. My breath caught. 3 months? I had you moved to the high roller section. Made sure you worked the nights I visited. Watched you. A ghost of a smile. I know it sounds obsessive. It is obsessive. But from that first moment I knew I wanted you. Wanted to know you. Wanted to take every burden off your shoulders and make them mine to carry. That's insane. Yes. He said it simply, truthfully. I'm obsessed with you, Emma. Possessive. Probably unhealthily so, but I'm honest about it. I won't lie and say what I feel is reasonable or normal. It's not. It's consuming. His honesty stripped away my defenses. How could I argue with someone who admitted his obsession so openly? Isabella is right about one thing, I whispered. I don't belong in your world. Then I'll change my world. He said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. I don't care about society's approval or my family's expectations. I care about you. Only you. Dominic, tell me you don't feel it too. His forehead pressed against mine. Tell me these 3 weeks have meant nothing. That you don't think about me every morning when I call, every night when my driver brings you home. Tell me you don't want this as much as I do. I couldn't, because it would be a lie. I'm terrified, I admitted, of you, of this, of how much I want something that feels too good to be real. It's real. His lips brushed mine, featherlight. I'm real. This is real. And I'm not going anywhere. The kiss that followed was different from the others. Deeper, more desperate, full of promises and possession. When we finally broke apart, we were both shaking. Take me home, I whispered. His eyes darkened with understanding. Emma, not to talk, not to be careful. I met his gaze steadily. Take me home, Dominic. I'm done running. From my past, from this, from you. For a moment, he just looked at me. Then he pulled out his phone, sent a text, and took my hand on his bringing the car around. We didn't speak during the drive to our penthouse. Didn't need to. The air between us crackled with electricity, with 3 weeks of restrained desire finally given permission to ignite. In the elevator, he pinned me against the wall, kissing me with a hunger that made my knees weak. By the time we reached my floor, my lipstick was smudged and his control was hanging by a thread. The apartment door closed behind us, and then there was nothing but him. His hands, his mouth, his body against mine. We shed clothes like armor, leaving a trail from the entryway to the bedroom. When he laid me on the bed, his eyes roamed over me with such reverence that I felt beautiful for the first time in my life. Mine, he whispered, and I didn't argue. Yours, I agreed. And then there were no more words, only sensation, connection. 2 broken people finding wholeness in each other. Later, wrapped in sheets in each other, I traced the tattoo on his chest, a phoenix rising from flames. Rebirth, he murmured sleepily. After my father died, after I came here, a reminder that we can rise from our ashes. I pressed a kiss to the intricate design. We're both rising then. His arms tightened around me, together. For the first time in 3 months, maybe longer, I felt safe. Truly safe. I should have known it wouldn't last. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the unfamiliar weight of an arm draped across my waist. For a moment, disoriented, I forgot where I was. Then, memory crashed back. Last night, Dominic, everything. And heat flooded my face. I turned carefully, not wanting to wake him, and found myself staring at a sleeping face that looked younger in repose. The hard edges softened, the constant vigilance gone. He looked almost peaceful. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it slowly, saw Marie's name. Good morning. Mr. Salvatore requested I inform you that he's cleared your schedule for the week. Enjoy your time together. M. I stared at the text. Cleared my schedule. As if I had one. As if my entire life wasn't currently wrapped around the man sleeping beside me. Stop thinking so loud. Dominic's voice was rough with sleep, his eyes still closed. I can hear your anxiety from here. I don't have anxiety. You've been awake for 3 minutes and already checked your phone twice. One dark eye cracked open, pinning me. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I'm just processing. Regretting? The question came out carefully, like he was bracing for impact. No. The truth surprised me. I don't regret last night, but Dominic, we need to talk about... My phone rang. Unknown number, but with a local area code. Dominic's entire demeanor changed, the sleepiness vanishing, replaced by sharp alertness. Don't answer it. But something made me reach for it anyway. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a voice I'd hoped never to hear again. Emma? Or should I say Sarah? Or Jessica? Derek's laugh was unhinged. You thought you were so clever, didn't you? Hiding behind your Mafia boyfriend? But guess what, baby? I know where you are, and I'm coming for you. Ice flooded my veins. Derek, you ruined my life, got Marcus killed, cost me everything. And now you're playing house with Dominic fucking Salvatore? His voice rose to a shriek. You're mine, Emma. Mine. And if I can't have you, nobody can. The line went dead. I sat frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear, Derek's words echoing in my head. Dominic was already moving, out of bed, pulling on pants, his phone to his ear. Anton, Derek Patterson, find him, now. He listened, his face darkening. What do you mean he left the city? Who authorized? A pause. I don't care what the Volkov said. He just threatened Emma. I want him found within the hour or heads will roll. He ended the call, turned to me. Get dressed. We're leaving. Dominic, what? Now, Emma. Command laced every word. Derek escaped Volkov custody 3 days ago. They didn't tell me because they assumed he'd run and never come back. Clearly, they were wrong. Fear crystallized into anger. 3 days? He's been free for 3 days and nobody thought to mention it? They will answer for that oversight. The promise in his voice was deadly, but right now, my priority is your safety. Pack a bag. Essentials only. We're going somewhere secure. 20 minutes later, we were in Dominic's personal vehicle. Not the sedan, but a black Range Rover with bulletproof glass and armor plating I could feel in the weight of the doors. Anton drove while another guard I didn't recognize sat in the passenger seat, both men bristling with weapons they didn't bother to hide. Where are we going? I asked as the city blurred past. My home. The brownstone. Dominic's hand found mine, squeezed. It's a fortress. Derek won't get within a block of it. You said you'd handle him. You said, I will. His voice was ice over fury. The Volkovs fucked up. They let him escape, didn't inform me. That breach of our agreement will have consequences. But first, I need you safe. The brownstone was in the historic district, a 4-story building that looked elegant and unassuming from the outside. But as we approached, I noticed the cameras, the reinforced gates, the way the neighboring buildings seemed to house men who watched our arrival with professional interest. Inside was another world, old-world elegance mixed with modern security. Marble floors, antique furniture, and artwork that probably belonged in museums. But also steel doors, panic rooms, and technology that monitored every entrance. Master bedroom is on the 3rd floor, Dominic said, guiding me upstairs. You'll stay there. Don't leave this building without me or a minimum of 3 guards. Understood? Dominic, this is insane. Derek is one unstable ex-boyfriend, not an army. Derek is an unstable man with nothing to lose and a vendetta against you. He cupped my face, forced me to meet his eyes. I've seen what desperate men do, Emma. I won't risk you. Not ever. The fear in his eyes, real fear, maybe the first time I'd seen it, silenced my protests. The rest of the day passed in tense waiting. Dominic made calls in his study. I could hear his voice rising, the fury barely contained as he tore into the Volkovs for their incompetence. Guards came and went, reporting in hushed tones. By evening, there was still no sign of Derek. He's toying with us, I said from where I sat curled on Dominic's leather couch, watching the sun set over the city. Making us wait. Making me afraid. He's succeeding. Dominic poured himself a scotch, his 3rd in an hour, but his window is closing. Every hour that passes, more of my men flood the streets. Every contact I have is looking for him. He can't hide forever, unless he doesn't want to hide. The thought crystallized as I spoke it. Unless he wants to be found, wants the confrontation. Dominic went very still. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop waiting for him to come to us. We draw him out. Use me as bait. Absolutely not. Dominic. No. He slammed his glass down hard enough that I flinched. I won't use you as bait. I won't put you in danger. That's final. I'm already in danger. I stood, anger overriding fear. He knows where I live. He has my number. He's out there somewhere, watching, planning. At least this way, we control when and where, and if something goes wrong, if he gets to you before my men can stop him. Dominic crossed to me, gripped my shoulders. I won't lose you. The raw emotion in his voice made my chest tight. You won't. But we can't live like this. I can't live like this. Hiding. Waiting. Constantly afraid. I didn't escape Derek just to let him control my life from the shadows. We stared at each other, wills clashing. Finally, Dominic exhaled sharply. If we do this, and I mean if, it's on my terms, my location, my men surrounding you at all times. And at the first sign of danger, you run. You don't try to be brave, you don't try to fight. You run and let my men handle it. Agreed. He studied my face, searching for doubt. Finding none, he pulled out his phone. Anton, set up a meeting. Tomorrow night, the warehouse on 5th, and get me 20 men. No, 30. I want that entire block locked down. The next 24 hours crawled by. Dominic briefed his men, planned exit routes, went over contingencies until my head spun. By the time sunset approached the following day, I was wound so tight I thought I might snap. Marie had brought clothes, a simple dress, flats I could run in if needed, no jewelry, nothing that could be grabbed or used against me. You don't have to do this, Dominic said for the 100th time as we drove toward the warehouse district. Yes, I do. The warehouse was exactly what I'd expected. Abandoned, industrial, surrounded by empty buildings that provided perfect sight lines for Dominic's men. I could see them positioned on rooftops, in doorways, everywhere. An army, just for me. We waited in the center of the main floor, surrounded by concrete and shadows. Dominic stayed close, his hand on the small of my back, radiating barely controlled tension. My phone rang at exactly 9 p.m. I'm here, Derek said. Alone, like you asked. Now come outside. Just you. No. Dominic took the phone from my hand. She stays with me. You want to talk? Come inside. We'll guarantee your safety long enough to hear what you have to say. You think I'm stupid enough to walk into your trap? I think you're desperate enough. Dominic's voice was cold, and I think you know this is your only chance to say whatever you came to say before my men put you in the ground. Silence. Then, 5 minutes. Just her and me. Then I'll leave, and you'll never hear from me again. 3 minutes. She stays in sight at all times. My men don't lower their weapons. Fine, the line went dead. Dominic looked at me, and I saw the war raging behind his eyes. The desire to protect me warring with the need to end this. Remember, 3 minutes, then you walk away, no matter what he says. I nodded, my mouth too dry for words. The warehouse door creaked open. Derek stepped inside, and I barely recognized him. Gaunt, filthy, with wild eyes and a desperation that rolled off him in waves. In his hand, he carried something small. My breath caught. A gun. Instantly, red laser sights dotted his chest. 30 weapons trained on him from 30 different angles. Drop it, Dominic commanded. Not until I've said what I came to say. Derek's hand shook, but the gun stayed up. Not pointed at me. Not yet. But the threat was clear. You ruined everything, Emma. Everything I had. Everything I was building. And for what? To play house with this piece of shit? You ruined your own life, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. You stole from the Volkovs. You beat me. You made me afraid to exist. This is consequences. Consequences. He laughed, the sound unhinged. You want to talk about consequences? Marcus is dead because of you. The Volkovs are hunting me because of you. My whole world burned down because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. I loved you. The scream echoed through the warehouse. I gave you everything, and you threw it away for him, for money. You gave me bruises, I interrupted. You gave me nightmares. You gave me reasons to run. That's not love, Derek. That's possession. And I'm done being possessed by you. Something shifted in his expression. Rage giving way to something colder, more resigned. Then I guess we're both done. The gun moved. Not toward me, toward Dominic. Everything happened at once. Dominic shoved me behind him. Gunfire erupted. Not from Derek, but from the shadows, from Dominic's men. Derek's body jerked once, twice, 3 times as bullets found their marks. He fell. The warehouse went silent except for the ringing in my ears. Dominic turned, grabbed me, checked me over with frantic hands. "Are you hurt? Emma, are you—" "I'm fine." The words came out numb. "Is he dead?" Dominic pulled me against his chest, his heart hammering beneath my ear. "It's over. He's gone. You're safe." I should have felt relief, should have felt something other than the strange emptiness that filled me. Derek was dead. The threat was gone. I was free. So why did I feel like I'd just traded one cage for another? 3 months later, I stood in the brownstones' kitchen, sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked a private garden, and listened to Dominic argue with someone on the phone in rapid Italian, his mother, from the sounds of it. Something about meeting me, about propriety, about when he planned to make things official. 3 months since Derek's death. 3 months of living in Dominic's home, in his world, in his shadow. 3 months of safety and security, and a love so intense it sometimes felt like drowning. But also, 3 months of learning who he really was, not just the dangerous man who'd saved me, but the man who woke with nightmares he wouldn't discuss, who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders and never let anyone see him falter, who loved with the same intensity he did everything else, completely, possessively, without reservation. The Volkovs had apologized for Derek's escape, had offered compensation that Dominic refused. "Keep your money," he'd told them. "Just remember that Emma Clark is off limits. Forever." They'd agreed. They hadn't had a choice. Isabella had returned to Milan, but not before one final visit where she'd looked at me with something that might have been respect. "You're stronger than I thought," she'd said. "Maybe you can handle him after all." I still wasn't sure I could, but I was trying. "Mama, yes, she's wonderful," Dominic was saying now, switching to English. "Yes, I'm serious. No, I'm not rushing into anything." He paused, listened, then laughed. "Fine. Christmas. You can meet her at Christmas. Ti amo." He ended the call, turned to find me watching from the doorway. "Your mother wants to meet me. My mother wants to know when I'm making an honest woman of you." He crossed to me, pulled me into his arms. I told her we're taking our time, that we've both earned the right to figure this out at our own pace. And what did she say? That I'm an idiot if I let you get away. He kissed my forehead. She's not wrong. I looked up at him. This complicated, dangerous, devoted man who'd turned my life upside down. "I'm not going anywhere. Promise?" "Promise." And I meant it. The nightmares still came sometimes. Derek's face, the gun, the sound of gunfire. But now when I woke gasping, Dominic was there, solid and real, anchoring me to the present. I'd stopped running, stopped hiding. I had a new name now. Not Emma Clark, not Sarah Mitchell, but just Emma Salvatore in the whispers that followed us through high society. We weren't married, weren't even engaged. But in every way that mattered, I was his and he was mine. "What are you thinking?" he asked, tilting my chin up to meet his eyes. That 3 months ago I was a cocktail waitress being hunted by my ex-boyfriend and the Russian mob. And now I'm standing in a multi-million-dollar brownstone, being kissed by a man who literally killed for me. Would you change it? The question was serious, vulnerable. If you could go back knowing everything, would you change it? I thought about it, really thought about it, about the fear, the violence, the way Dominic had inserted himself into my life with the subtlety of a hurricane, about the control he exerted, the possessiveness, the way he'd made me his without asking permission. I thought about who I'd been, broken, running, afraid to exist, and who I was now, stronger, protected, loved with an intensity that still took my breath away. "No," I said finally. "I wouldn't change a thing." His smile was brilliant, boyish, everything his dangerous reputation wasn't. "Good, because I have something for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring box. Longer, flatter. Inside was a key. Platinum, engraved with words in Italian. "What does it say?" I asked. "La mia casa è la tua casa." My home is your home. He took the key, pressed it into my palm. "This isn't a proposal, Emma. I won't rush you into something you're not ready for. But this is a promise. Everything I have, everything I am, it's yours, for as long as you want it." Tears pricked my eyes. Dominic, you saved me too, you know? His voice was rough. The motions, building an empire with no one to share it with. Then I saw you, invisible to everyone else but glowing like a fucking star to me. And I knew. I knew you were going to change everything. I didn't do anything. You existed. He said it simply. You survived. You fought back when you had every reason to give up. You're the strongest person I know, Emma. And I'm honored that you chose to stop running with me. I stood on my toes, kissed him with everything I had. Gratitude, love, promise. When we broke apart, we were both smiling. So, I said, fingering the key, does this mean I can finally rearrange your terrible furniture? His laugh echoed through the kitchen, warm and alive. You can burn it all if you want, as long as you stay. Deal. We stood there in the sunlight, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. And I realized something. Freedom wasn't about running. It wasn't about hiding or changing your name or staying invisible. Freedom was choosing who you gave yourself to, who you trusted with your scars and your secrets and your heart. I'd chosen Dominic, and terrifying, complicated, possessive as he was, he'd chosen me right back. That was enough. That was everything. Outside, the city sprawled, full of danger and possibility and shadows that no longer held power over me. Because I wasn't running anymore, I was home.